This has been a desire of my heart for a long time, and actually seeing the fruit of those prayers in fruition. Bob is the primary speaker, and Dwight will join later. So DeafChurch Together is not an actual church building, but a combination of believers who are meeting face to face. This has been a desire of my heart for a long time, and actually seeing the fruit of those prayers in fruition. Bob is the primary speaker, and Dwight will join later. So DeafChurch Together is not an actual church building, but a combination of believers who are meeting face to face. It's not about the numbers, it's about the quality of the interaction, and we will have opportunities to expand. I recently moved to Florida. Has it been about a month ago? And God will really show us how everything is working together and how it happened. So it's important to really be flexible and accommodating to each of those areas. It's not like we have some strict guidelines that must be applied in each situation without any flexibility.
Oh, sorry. Got it. Sorry. Okay. So, welcome, Marva. You've met her. She is becoming a pastor of a church plant, and we're wanting to set up church plants in the area of St. Augustine, and we see that move. So, my responsibility is with the Gulf Atlantic Diocese. I'm part of that. Marva is has a host church, and it's Christ the King Anglican Church. It's in St. Augustine. We're very excited about this host church. Her focus is on Northeast. Our focus is Northeast Florida. But Dwight, he's going to be coming up shortly, and we'll introduce about the deaf world and deaf people. And then Anna is my daughter.
This has been a desire of my heart for a long time, and actually seeing the fruit of those prayers in fruition. Bob is the primary speaker, and Dwight will join later. So DeafChurch Together is not an actual church building, but a combination of believers who are meeting face to face. It's not about the numbers, it's about the quality of the interaction, and we will have opportunities to expand. I recently moved to Florida. Has it been about a month ago? And God will really show us how everything is working together and how it happened. So it's important to really be flexible and accommodating to each of those areas. It's not like we have some strict guidelines that must be applied in each situation without any flexibility.
Oh, sorry. Got it. Sorry. Okay. So, welcome, Marva. You've met her. She is becoming a pastor of a church plant, and we're wanting to set up church plants in the area of St. Augustine, and we see that move. So, my responsibility is with the Gulf Atlantic Diocese. I'm part of that. Marva is has a host church, and it's Christ the King Anglican Church. It's in St. Augustine. We're very excited about this host church. Her focus is on Northeast. Our focus is Northeast Florida. But Dwight, he's going to be coming up shortly, and we'll introduce about the deaf world and deaf people. And then Anna is my daughter. And this is Kathy, my wife, her mother. We're all connected. One big happy family. I'm glad that they've come. This is her first time coming in, David's first time. And Noemi, right? Yeah. So, and Dwight's first time. So possibly God's calling them as missionaries, and we want to help with that. Flora, we want to thank Flora and glad that she's here. She's been involved many years. Her parents are deaf, so she is a child of a deaf adult, or what we would call a coda. And has seen concern herself of who's going to be reaching the deaf, because it seems to be an ignored group of people. It's very important to have deaf ministers. Chad Intinger, he developed deaf movies, and he came and spoke, and it started from there. And then 3 years later I came, and 3 years later, and so we had a pretty large group of people 3 years ago. Chad is right here in this picture. So in a nutshell, God is moving on our hearts and moving on the hearts of many people. And we're really excited that you guys are part of the prayer process and supporting us and supporting this ministry. Kathy and I started a deaf teen ministry about 25 years ago, which has now become a national ministry. And it's been going strong for 25 years in this country. We were a part of Youth for Christ. And, we were concerned. We wanted kids to become Christians. We wanted to go on mission trips and to graduate. But then we saw them graduating and going downhill from there, and their faith crashing. And there was a lot of judgment that they experienced. And they might have been Christians like 10 minutes before they graduated, and then afterwards they fell. So we were trying to figure out how are we going to impact the next generation of churches, of deaf churches, after high school. So we welcomed, we had 12 deaf leaders who were experienced and knowledgeable ministers of the gospel, young adults. And we, from very diverse lives,
backgrounds.
And different denominations as well. So we asked them the question, what is the deaf church going to look like? Because what we're doing now does not work. It's not sustainable. So we had 4 things that we were focusing on. Identifying challenges, in the deaf church. And there's a lot of challenges, and Marva is part of that group. Determining what are the essential values. We have to have values of the church. So what are those? What's going to be our foundational values? And developing a statement for the deaf church. We want them to wake up. We need them to recognize that it's time to wake up. We've lost deaf and hard of hearing. And then implement a working example that can be replicated elsewhere. So
Dwight is known in St. Augustine.
Dwight is known in St. Augustine. Oh, he's
A test plot.
Oh, the test plot in St. Augustine. There's a test plot, but I'm so lost right now. Sorry. Okay, so those are the 4. We also have 21 different challenges that are identified with the deaf. They have the same challenges as hearing people, but they also have 21 additional challenges as well. Isolation is a large one. It's really hard to escape from past sins if you're in the deaf community, because it's such a small community. Everyone knows each other. And if you're in a small town, it's they're with you wherever you go. When Carrie was pregnant with her first daughter, we were living in Louisville. Yeah, they were living in Louisville, and there was this guy from Seattle, Washington, heard from a woman in Maryland that Carrie was pregnant, and it got to me. And they asked, wait a second. They found out from, someone from Seattle found out from Maryland, found out from, that and asked me if, oh, is she pregnant? So it's a very small world. Thank you. Yeah, no problem. Essential values. We have 4 guiding principles. And then ministry priorities. And declarations. We have 14 total, 7 for the church in general. Grace, truth, Jesus-centered. The last 7 specific for deaf culture. A lot of times that the pressure, marginalization, lack of opportunities and finances, resources, they're all different. The deaf community is very similar to
In Alaska.
like Alaskan indigenous. Okay, thank you. It's a challenge because they're competing with hearing people with the same degrees that they may have. And they know people from their church and their communities where deaf people may not, and so they can take advantage of those differences. So there's 7 specific things that are specific to the deaf culture. So Marva's going to share a little bit more
About the church.
about Deaf Church Together in St. Augustine.
I recently moved to Florida about a month ago, and St. Augustine, Florida. It was a really interesting experience in formulating this idea of the move. So if you have 7 in a hearing world, then it's sort of like only 1 in the deaf world. So recently, like the whole process of ordination, and as I was speaking with the different people in the community and hearing from them, and the major theme that I heard from everyone was isolation. And there's a large deaf population in St. Augustine, but they have a tendency to accumulate depending on the denomination. So and there are people who don't know God, and there are statistics about the deaf world, but in reality, they're like from deaf and hard of hearing on that spectrum. If you have 3 people, then at least one person has experienced some type of abuse. Those are just the facts. And when you mention God, there's resistance to him because you're saying Father God, and immediately there's that resistance because really it's a challenge. It's a complicated, many-layered problem. So Dwight works internationally, so I will invite him to come and share what his experience has been.
So has anybody here experienced what it's like to be in a situation where you feel isolated? And
like the 7 degrees of separation. There's like a separation of, like they say the 7 degrees of separation. Well, related to the deaf, it's a 3 degree of separation. Like someone from Antigua came and said, I saw your picture in the newspaper, and I was like, what? So how can someone from another country know who I am? So there has been a challenge for the deaf people, like she mentioned about the statistics of abuse. It's really worldwide.
It doesn't, the way that churches are set up for the hearing is not the best setup for the deaf as well. And in rows, when you're sitting there watching, so the expression, we need the circle of expression where we can communicate with each other better. We have this pressure of like people watching, almost like in a performance, authority problems. But when we're all together in a circle, we're equal with each other. We're a group. We're a church. I'm attracted to DeafChurch Together because of it's an Acts 2 church where everybody is sharing and supporting each other instead of following kind of the hearing way or the traditional church ways. When I went to China, they have deaf churches all over, and the pastor there was a very honorable man, amazing, he's on Zoom or video with everybody. He wants to know the Word of God, and he lets people. He shares that with others, the churches in Europe. They're starting as well. There's 30 years now. I was a boy, and there was and now here I am a leader of a deaf church. So it's proof that it can happen, that God can do it, and so I won't go any deeper.
What has been to St. Augustine too is already soon know me and as well. Very excited about having that kind of talent. Both have master's degrees. Dwight has an MDiv.
Use the microphone.
Oh, am I talking? Oh, sorry. It's hard. Hard here. So let's go to the next thing. But I wanted to say about. I'll talk. It's very common for people that are hard of hearing to talk and sign at the same time.
You gotta hold that. You need that card. You need that card.
Do I need it?
Yeah, just go on.
And some of them are kind of clumsy and break things, like me. Am I there? Yeah. Okay, was somebody stand up beside me? Okay, so what I'm saying is that it's not in yet. That sounds like it.
Now it's off. Button.
It's on.
Hit the button.
Okay. Thank you for your grace. Dwight and Marva and Matt Bellwood, who's one of the people in that group, Carrie and another interpreter, went to Israel last year with Incarnation with the church. And it was just so amazing to have that group together. And so the three of them are actually planning another trip back to Israel that's very deaf-centric. As good as it is to be with good interpreters and good people and everything, the deaf mind and the heart language of the deaf is very, very different than English. And so English is described as like reading a book. It's good, I love books. ASL is like watching the movie. You're getting the same information, you're getting it visually as opposed to just in linear, it is a beautiful day, as opposed to where it's very body and language stuff. So we're very fortunate, and Dwight is just, it's not to be understated how brilliant he is and the strengths he brings in terms of formation and really helping teach classic Christianity in the deaf world is going to be such a addition. I've been doing that for several years with folks online around the country, so we'll do both online and in place, because so many deaf pastors, one of the challenges is that they don't have adequate education for the positions they're put in, because if they're a good communicator, they're going to be put into pastoral positions, even if they're not a good theologian. And so there's a really, really great to have both of these two to be able to do that. So the small groups, he said earlier, the Acts 2 groups, are just those fourfold Acts 2:42, prayer, breaking of bread, fellowship, and the apostles' teaching, which is the New Testament, but it also includes the Old Testament. And so a lot of times we jump around the Bible when we're teaching it to deaf folks, and it's very confusing, because again, they're thinking spatially, not linearly in terms of that information. So being able to have that kind of information is really important. But part of the idea is, instead of a church, this is where it's very different than just your church. You're starting small groups, and Incarnation has a dozen of them that are just wonderful. It's starting and collecting and networking with small groups, some that already exist, and some that are, and some are non-denoms. We got a Catholic group we're developing a relationship. We got a Baptist group we're developing a relationship. And so that to weave us all together, we have to be teaching the non-negotiables. And then the second layer, the second thing is that these are still essentials, but we can have different scriptural perspectives on baptism, on ordination of women, on these different layered things like that. Well, everything except the classic Christianity, the Trinity, the uniqueness of Christ, the authority of Scripture, these kinds of things, if we can get people strong in those areas, then they can have the freedom of scriptural different perspectives and teachings in the other areas. But we've got to then, when we come together, it's really an interdenominational gathering to worship and serve and fellowship across these different groups. Because again, you've got so you only have 3.4 deaf people for every 100 hearing people. And so you have, I don't know that 0.4 person, I haven't run into them yet, but the idea is it's just different than hearing world. It's not just getting a good interpreter or putting you in the right group. The deeper it goes into real koinonia and faith, you've got to get to the core of what it means to be created deaf in the image of God. You're not a broken hearing person. You're created deaf in the image of God. It's for His purposes and for His calling in your life. And so that gets very deaf. And that needs to go, as Dwight was saying, it needs to follow very much. Okay.